we go up from there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I've got 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'd like to call the council meeting to order. I ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call.
Sarah? Here. Ross?
Yes.
Andrea? Here. Nancy?
Here.
Eric?
Here.
Jay?
Okay, all the council members should have received a copy of the November 4th, 2024 council meeting minutes. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes?
Make a motion.
Have a motion by Nancy to approve the minutes as distributed. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Andrea. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. All of you should have received a copy of the November 18th Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. I have one correction on those. Bill brought it to my attention that on the third page, under the Addison Farms TIF and NCA, there was a statement in there that said they would like to create a TIF and use the funds for all of the public infrastructure throughout the development. That is incorrect. What he said was they use the funds for the public improvements outside of the development. So do I have a motion to accept those minutes with the amended minutes?
Yes.
I have a motion by Ross.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Eric. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Go to administrative reports. I have nothing to report at this time. We'll move on to the village solicitor's report.
Nothing to report this time.
Does anybody have any questions for our solicitors at this time?
No.
Okay, moving on. Police chief's report.
Yeah, the November activity reports, they'll be sent to you all prior to the committee of the whole, if I could speak, committee of the whole meeting, so you'll get that for that. Also, I just wanted to mention on the 14th of December, we're going to be, along with the Sheriff's Office, Highway Patrol, we're going to be involved with the Shop with a Cop here in the county. Basically what that is we work with the schools, identify families that might be in need, not have means to be able to do stuff for their children for Christmas. They get that information, they share it with our departments involved, Sheriff's Office, Highway Patrol. I think they reached out to Asheville and South Winfield as well. So officers will be down there at Walmart, going with the children for them to be able to shop and pick items out for Christmas. The Commercial Point Men's Club and the Ladies Auxiliary has made a significant donation for us to be able to do that. The Men's Club donated $4,000 for that this year, and the Ladies Auxiliary is donating $500 to it. So that'll be, we try to spend $100 for each child that's involved with it. So that'll be up to 45 children from this area that we'll be able to do, we'll be able to help out with that this year.
Excellent. Well done. Thank you, Men's Club.
Yeah, that's a very sizable donation. In fact, I believe that's the largest donation in the county.
It is, they did get some other sponsors throughout the county. What happened with this was last year, we were involved with it. The funds were kind of limited. I talked with them, asked if I could reach out to some other organizations, and they said, yeah, that's, obviously more the better. So I reached out to the Men's Club. They voted, they gave $3,000 last year for it. So I got with the school resource deputies out over there. They got with the school counselors and stuff, identified the families that would benefit from this and got them in. I think altogether, last year, same thing, Men's Club did 3,000, Ladies Auxiliary did 500. I put a little bit into it along with some other folks. And I think altogether we had like 38 kids that we were able to get just from our area alone. I did get an email. I go Wednesday morning for a meeting with the sheriffs. Walmart is also donating money towards it as well. There's another group that's out of Circleville. I apologize, I don't have the name of the group, but they specialize in know, like kids things and stuff, they're making a donation to it as well. And I think altogether they're up to, combined of everybody, they're up to like $12,000 for this year. But we did have the largest up here, the largest one, single donation that was made for it. So very appreciative of the Men's Club and Ladies Auxiliary for helping out with that. They even looked at making it a permanent appropriation every year. So going forward, that's one of their planned expenses that they're going to do.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the chief?
I do. Chief, some of the cars are starting to sound kind of rough as they drive around. Are we spending more than our fair share in repairs? And if we are, can we do like the sheriff's office did and maybe get a used 30,000 mile car that we don't have to pay as much for outfitting? Or are we not to that point of spending too much?
So a couple of cars were rough. Our cars are getting driven more and more and more. We currently have 5 vehicles. The years of them is a 2017, a 2018, a 2021, a 2022, and a 2023. There's currently 8 officers. Your patrol mileage, it's not unheard of driving over 100 miles in a shift here in the village. If you go drive every road in this village, you'll have 50 some miles doing that. You wouldn't think of a small village would have that actual many road miles, but when you go out, drive up 104, come down the back way behind the warehouses, go hit every subdivision, it adds up a lot quicker than what you realize. So that's the actual mileage, and you have the idle time. You're not going to be sitting in a car shut off in 20-some degree weather. You're also not going to be sitting there in body armor and everything, sitting in a car 90-some degree weather, not having it run with the AC. So short answer to your question, yeah, we have spent a lot of money on repairs. And the car you're talking about, yeah, it did get sent down, had the repairs and everything that are made on it. I think we do need to upgrade our fleet of cars in regards to start phasing out the 2017, the 2018. We need to focus on getting those replaced out. And I know it's kind of a bad word, but we also are getting to where we might need to add to the fleet, more numbers to keep the cars from getting ran 16 to 20 hours a day.
Is that program the sheriff's office did, is that an option for us? Where they got the used cars with like 30,000 miles and when they didn't have the big expense of outfitting them as much?
Well, I did look at at used cars. We have investigated options. Me and the mayor, we talked about, we looked at it. What you're talking 30,000 miles, I don't know of any cars they got with 30,000 miles.
It was ish.
They got a car from, last I heard, they got a used car from Franklin Township. And I know when they got it for the past several weeks, when I've had to take multiple cars down to Coghlan, it was still sitting there on the rack. They had to do quite a bit of work to it.
I think this would be better discussed at our budget. Council's going to be sitting around the table going through this come budget time. And I think that would be the time to go through all this as far as what we need,
It's definitely a
what we're
work
looking
session
for.
meeting, I think, more
Well, I
than
guess
a legislative meeting.
my
Actually.
big question is, could you get us how much we're spending in repair before that so that we can?
You can stop, Wendy can give you all them figures. She can pull up, show you
Okay.
exactly what we've spent all year long on repair. And the repairs have been significantly higher this year.
They have.
Yes.
Okay.
Probably more this year than they've ever been, to
Yes.
be honest with you.
How many cars do we have over 100,000 miles?
We've got definitely 2, and I would have to, the 2 newer ones, definitely not, but definitely the 2 older ones do, the 2017 and 18. And I would have to take a look at the next oldest one, the
The 21.
2021.
Thank you.
Anything else for the chief? Okay, moving on. Thank you. Moving on, village administrators report.
Yes, sir. Mine's very brief, but I do like to keep you up to date on water and wastewater. For the month of November, our average daily flow for the wastewater was 351,000 against a capacity of 430,000. So we still have a little bit there. On the water treatment plant, The average daily flow was 402,000 against the capacity of 1 million. So our new plan, we still have a little bit of capacity on that one, but I'd like for you to have that information available as you make certain decisions. The new wastewater treatment plant, speaking of that, we are making progress. I think the last month I reported, it still looks like the second quarter of 25 before it'll be up and running. We're still looking towards that, but I'll keep you informed as we keep moving ahead. The last thing I wanted to let you know that we're going to promote Nate Kinsley to superintendent, effective on Monday, the 9th. Jim's last day will be this Friday. You see Jim on the street, whatever, give him attaboy, good luck, or whatever you feel like telling him. But he'll be on his way on Friday.
Anybody have anything else for our village administrator at this time?
I do have a question. I was driving on Walker Road and noticed where they've been cleaning up the ditches and there's still quite a mess there. Do you know?
I talked to Mike on that. Mike's kind of ramrodding him. And he says the guy's supposed to be coming back with a chipper, and we understand it's not cleaned up, nor have we paid him anything.
Okay.
You know, so we tried to tell, we had a call from the HOA president in Walker Point, and let him know, it's not done, the project is definitely not done. We haven't made any payments to the contractor, and before we do release the funds, it will be walked. The mayor has indicated he's interested in going through it. Just go through and make sure everything's satisfactory, because it was a big project. We took a lot of trees and everything, kind of cleared that ditch out. It was a big deal. But I think now it's done. If we stay on top of it, it'll go a lot easier next time we want to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a plan for the next time you want to do that? How regularly you want to do that?
The ditch itself is, once we get it cleaned out, shouldn't be, so I'm guessing every couple of years.
Okay,
We don't want the trees to get this size anymore.
okay.
We can keep it down maybe inch and a half. That'd be great. And a lot of those would just scrub. And I understand, I made a barrier. People appreciated the barrier and they hated to see that disappear. But I think we had some responsibility to maintain the ditches, and just it's been 20 some years and hasn't been done. So 20 some years, trees aren't like this anymore. They're more like this.
So maybe every like 3 to 5 years, you're
3 to
thinking?
5 would be a very safe thing to go with it. If it gets grown up any faster than that, we might do it sooner. And we're trying to equip our own department so we can do a lot of the general maintenance of it. And we won't have a big chipper and be able to do those kind of things. We don't want to get into that, but we can keep from getting all grown up and do that in-house.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else for the village administrator? Okay, up next, village engineers report.
Hello, just a few things, starting out with Belshazzar. So we do have that roadway improvement contract. The soil bores, they were collected right before Thanksgiving. So we took a couple bores just to see what the existing conditions are. And then also survey should be this week. So you'll probably see a gentleman out there with a yellow vest starting the survey for Belshazzar. So that one's moving forward. In terms of all of our punch lists for our residential communities and the industrial parks, we've made great headway. Foxfire's punch lists are all up to date and complete, which is wonderful. Walker Point, we're in the process of exchanging their performance bond for their maintenance bond, so that's great. The industrial park, we provided a punch list for the on-site and the off-site improvements. They almost have it done. We're just waiting on some as-built plans, so that's great news. And I think that's it. Unless you have any questions for me.
I think the guy was out today.
He was.
There was a guy on a four-wheeler. I wondered
Yeah, I
what the
saw
guy
him.
was doing. He was down by the creek and all that. So he is out doing it now. Just so if anybody sees him, he's supposed to be there.
Good, that's good.
Anything else for our engineer?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Zoning administrators report.
I have no report this time, but I will render any questions.
Any questions for the zoning administrator?
Yeah, Jim, the Amazon property, several people have either made in passing comments. Does that have to be mowed, or for the next 10 years, is that going to be 6 foot tall weeds? I don't know where that falls. Because it's
I've got a meeting with Amazon Wednesday morning downtown, and that's going to be one of our topics of discussion.
Okay.
They actually, at our last meeting, they had asked if they could farm it.
Oh, okay.
And they'd like, since it's been farmed all these years, they wanted to know if they could continue working with one of the local farmers or something and just farm the land until they're ready to build on it.
That'd be great.
Absolutely.
So, but we're getting some new people. In fact, the purpose of our meeting on Wednesday is to find our new local contact people, so to speak. They're getting local contact people. Prior to this, every time we've had a meeting, they've flown in either here to Commercial Point or to Columbus, and they're coming out of Washington, the state of Washington and the state of Mississippi. So they're trying to get some people with boots on the ground here so they can have regular meetings with us.
Okay.
So but that is a topic of conversation that we will be having.
So that is something that if it's not farmed, they have to keep it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And their thoughts are they would love to be able to continue have some local farmer just farm it for them.
Okay. Yeah,
Makes
that'd be
sense.
great. Thank you.
Anything else for our zoning administrator? Okay, fiscal officer's report. Anything for the fiscal officer? Okay, moving on, legislative reports. Nancy,
Nothing.
Ross,
Not at this time.
Sarah,
I don't have anything.
Eric.
I do. I just wanted to, in our CAL meeting, in every step, I've questioned the access drives of a business, and I did find the 118504. I have a printout if anybody wants to see it, but it does say that on our arterial road, which is what Welch Road is, for 35 miles an hour, the spacing does have to be 300 feet between exits. So we have something up tonight that doesn't fit that, and that is the arterial is by definition of our engineer, which is what our code states, who defines whether it's local, arterial, or any of those. And I just spoke to make sure that it is a minor arterial. So if anybody wants the form that shows what they have to be, I do have a copy for everybody. That's all.
Okay, Audrey,
Nothing at this time.
Jay.
No, nothing.
Moving on to committee reports. Parks and Recreation Committee, Nancy.
Yes, just want to remind everybody this Saturday is going to be our very chilly Christmas tree lighting. Santa mailbox is up. It's already has a lot of attention. I want to thank Mike for getting all the lights up. You could tell we paid to get our existing Christmas decorations lit this year. We'll change some colors next year, add some stuff. So that is Saturday from 4 to 8. The parade starts at 4. Take the homecoming route, and actually not 4 to 8. I'm thinking food truck. 4 to like 6 or something. Whenever we light the tree. So it should be a good time, and I think that's pretty much all we have.
Okay,
The Grinch may be out again.
okay. Land Use Committee.
Well, after hundreds of hours put in and multiple meetings, everybody should have gotten a packet in a colorful map. We have pretty much exhausted our low level of expertise, and through talking with other communities around and some of the landowners and developers that have done things, this is where the committee is with the map. We've allowed some buffer areas between commercial and residential. We're trying to optimize east of 104 as income, along 762 and Welch Road. The frontage is probably going to be retail or commercial, whatever it is at the time. We also have a very brief attached. Sarah took a lot of time to cut down the 109 pages or whatever into a few pages of where we're at. But as a committee, we don't feel like we can meet anymore until after maybe we discuss this at a CAL and maybe at the next regular meeting, as to what direction council and the village as a whole wants to go. As a committee, we thought that we were, our goal was to come up with a thought process of directions to possibly move with contiguous and non-contiguous lands. but to maybe share with council the importance of maybe moving forward with a professional to help plan. If we get any deeper than what we've gone, I believe we would be moving forward in ignorance because none of us are trained in actually, to put more meaning behind what we've put on paper. We're open to discuss, any of the decisions as a committee and with input from the community that we did. And we tried not to leave anything not designated other than the one house, because honestly, we couldn't figure out what to do there. But we listened to the public and what everybody had said and tried to keep the residential or the light manufacturing commercial east of 104 minus the state routes. Because who knows, in 15 years, 762 might be a divided highway like 161, and Welch Road could be a divided road as well. And Grove City is trying to come south with commercial, and we don't know. And this is something that's going to have to be looked at and updated every 3 to 5 years at least. But as a committee, we're looking for the direction that council wants to go, whether it's us trying to muddle through more, but quite honestly, the three of us have come to an agreement that we've exhausted our knowledge base. And, our recommendation would be to probably move on with somebody at a professional level to help us move if we want to go more than just, what you've been presented with tonight. So we look forward to whether it be at the December COW or the January regular meeting to get more input. But we're proud of where we got to in such a short time. And we know next year is going to be a busy year as some neighboring places have ceased, all building. So that means our properties are going to be more, people are going to want to do more and more. Farmers are going to make more and more if they sell. So we do think that action needs taken sooner than later. So does anybody have any? What's that?
Do you want to discuss it at the COW?
I think it would be, if we're not overloaded, I think it would be a good thing to, to at least have at the COW and then maybe at the next meeting to allow, the public to speak. And, I don't have a problem if anybody wants to email, as long as it's okay with administration, I can share this with a community member. Or Alan, would you rather have that come from the office?
I would say, why don't we wait until the council discusses it at the committee of the whole meeting
Okay.
in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And let the rest of the council weigh in on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then if we want to open it up and send out some stuff or whatever and move forward from there.
That's why I asked.
Very good.
Does anybody have any other questions or concerns before you go home and digest? And I didn't put it in the packets because I wanted to make sure that everybody had the hard copy with us. And then I will make sure everybody gets a digital copy of all of this as well so that you can have it, on your devices as well. But that's all.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Public comments. We have no one signed up to speak at this evening's meeting. We'll move on down to our business items. First item up, Chestnut Commons and Estates Special Event Road Closure. As all of you know, we received a request for a special event application. They'd like to have a parade in Chestnut Estates and Chestnut Commons. The police chief met with the person who filled out the applicant. They had a discussion. The chief reported back to all of council at the last committee of the whole meeting. Now we're basically at a point, it's time for council to make a decision.
I'd like to make a motion to deny.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Eric to deny the request.
I'll second it.
We have a second by Jay. Any discussion?
Question. Is there a liability that is inherent in this on the village since we're taking the responsibility of approving? If it were approved, does the village have a liability?
Wouldn't it be the police that the village would be responsible with having to manage?
I defer to the
Yeah, that means
specialist.
anybody can file a lawsuit.
Oh, yeah, believe me, been there.
Well, and I'd like to point out that the shop with the cop is the same day as this, so I don't know how busy they're gonna be, and so that might just not even work anyway.
Okay, the second question related to this is this the intent of our event planner to regulate or approve or deny things that are being done within a community, a sub-community of the village? If the HOA wanted to have a parade or walking around the streets, the trick or treat or something, would we be involved in that?
The only time the village would be involved is what was recently passed, meeting
Okay.
ago,
Yes.
and it's for street closures.
Okay, that was.
And
that
any
led
street
my-
closures that are non-emergency in nature will be made by the council.
Okay,
And I think
Okay, I
the
wanna
chief
clarify.
said that, we would have to shut down the entire development.
I
So I
remember.
just I'm like, well, what if people are coming home and they can't get in their development? They're gonna be irritated, they need to leave. I mean, what if there's? I don't,
Okay, there is
but
a
nothing
motion.
says that, I think we said if they wanna drive Santa around in the truck, I mean, that was their main thing. It's, it's just all the extra.
That answered my questions. Thank you.
I mean, we're having a parade, correct?
Yeah.
Are they part of the community?
Yeah. Anybody's welcome, yeah.
And chief, as long as Santa's over 16, he can ride in the back of the truck, right?
It's a 25 mile per hour or less road over there, so.
Okay, there you go. So Santa can ride legally in the back of a truck.
Whatever they want to do.
I just want to say on the record, if they do that, my only concern is I don't want people to be in a hurry to get home. And if there's a car coming and Santa's going slow, another car whip around them, or, there's some safety issues that concern me.
Okay,
I defer to the motion.
we have a motion on the floor by Eric and a second by Jay to deny the request. All in favor, say aye.
All right,
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. The application for the special event will be denied. Next item we have up was the Addison Farms agreement. I don't believe they're here yet. They had called earlier today and said they would be running late. They had another council meeting and they wanted to know if they could be moved to the back end of our agenda, if that's okay with everybody.
I thought Glenn was here.
No, Glenn had to be somewhere else. I told him we'd move him to the end.
Oh, he was. Oh, okay.
So we'll skip them. We'll put them on hold for now. We'll pick them up under additional business. Okay, we have a variance request discussion on that. We just had our variance public hearing. The way this works, we did the public hearing for the rezoning, and rezoning requires legislation. We will do a first reading on the rezoning legislation tonight. Council has 120 days to act on the rezoning after the public hearing. The variance does not require legislation. Council must act on the variance within 35 days of the public hearing. We did the public hearing tonight. Council can discuss it. You can act on it tonight. You can put it on. You don't have to act on it tonight. It requires a motion to approve it. It's all it takes. If you do not act on it tonight, our next meeting is in January and you will have to act on it at the January meeting.
Mhm.
Alan, can we motion to deny it tonight or only approve it tonight?
You can make a motion to deny it tonight if you wish.
I honestly, with the public's input and the landowner was not only did that option in case it was palatable, and they said when they were here that they were okay with any option. I would like to make a motion to deny it, to take that out of the possibilities for them, because it doesn't sound like that's what the constituents would stomach. So I'm a motion to deny.
Okay, we have a motion by Eric to deny the variance request. Is there a second?
Second.
Yep.
Second by Nancy. Discussion.
Now, just so everybody's clear, that this is not denying the MFA. This is just denying that they can have more than 4-ish units. So we're not saying that they can't have anything. We're just saying that he has to stay within the, whatever the code is, whether it's 4 or 5. I think it's 4, but I'm not 100%
Yeah,
certain.
I believe it's 4 units.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. So we're just saying no more than 4. And then down the road, we'll make the determination if it can even happen.
And that would be limiting it to 4 units if council passes the rezoning within the 120 days.
Correct.
If council does not pass the rezoning, this is a moot point. So at this point in time, we have a motion on the floor by Eric to deny the variance request. We have a second by Nancy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. The variance request is denied. Next item. All of you have received a letter. I gave you a copy of the letter from the liquor department.
Mine wouldn't open. Yeah, mine wouldn't open. Do you have a copy that I can glance at?
Basically, all this letter is the liquor department is asking if the council is requesting a public hearing for the renewal of any liquor license within the village. They used to send them out individually. Was that? They would be together, but in February. And at that point in time, the village council can, if you have like a establishment that you think is a problem, or you would like a public hearing with the liquor board, you'd request it in February. Now, according to this, it looks like they are wanting to answer by January the 2nd, if you're requesting anything. So we got a kind of last minute deal and it came out like this. So
Thank you.
did I miss anything on this?
Right on point.
So with that being said, does anyone request and if we take no action, then it just goes on and they'll be renewed if the liquor board sees fit to do so. And we quite honestly let everybody know we have no say in whether or not a place gets a liquor license or not. That is all handled strictly by the state liquor department. The only thing council can do is request a public hearing if we have a place that we think is causing problems, or if the police chief has major issues with one or more establishments. I believe we was counting today. I think we have 5 places. This would involve Pettit's, the Hawk, Beck's, Station House, and Moe's Pizza.
Right. The golf course.
Oh,
6.
that's right.
Golf course.
I forgot
Everybody
that.
forgets about the golf course.
Forgot about the golf course. Yes, they sell alcohol also.
Sorry, Tom.
So anyway, if anyone has any objections or whatever, otherwise, if council doesn't have any objections, we don't reply, and then it's in the liquor board's hands.
I have nothing.
Nothing at this time? Okay. Moving on, the next item we have is legislation. Up for a first reading this evening is ordinance 2024-17, an ordinance to rezone 0.784 plus or minus acres within the village of Commercial Point, Ohio, from low-density residential district R3 to multifamily apartment residential district multifamily -A apartment. Let the record reflect, we did a first reading on this, title only. And with this being the rezoning of Harsh Alley, like I said, there'll be 3 readings unless council waives the reading at the next meeting, which they typically do not do. This would come up for a vote at the February meeting, whether or not to rezone or not. No, I'm sorry, February meeting.
Yeah.
February meeting. Moving on, the next item up for a first reading this evening is Resolution 33-2024. Approval and granting consent to the Director of the Ohio Department of Transportation Authority to apply, maintain, and repair standard longitudinal pavement markings and erect regulatory and warning signs on state highways inside village corporate limits, and giving consent of the village for the Ohio Department of Transportation to remove snow and ice and use snow and ice control material on state highways inside the village corporate limits, and giving consent of the village for the Ohio Department of Transportation to perform maintenance and or repair on state highways inside the village corporation. What this long-winded title is nothing more than ODOT updating their records. They realize that they've been coming in doing repairs and everything else on numerous villages and highways throughout the state. and they've never really had permission to do so inside a municipality. So they're asking for the village council to basically pass this to allow them to come and clean
what
up
they've
their
done.
streets, to do what they've been doing for the past 30 years.
Question real quick.
Yes,
Does that mean that this will be like forever ongoing, or do they have to do this each year?
I believe since they haven't done it forever, this is probably something, I think this is ongoing, or it should be ongoing forever. So they shouldn't be coming
not
back.
that big a
or anything.
deal.
Perfect. You were floored.
Oh, man.
So this should not be anything we have to do on a yearly basis or anything. This should
Thank you.
just be in effect for, till they decide to change something between now and then.
Like as we discussed in the cow, could we make a motion to waive? Because this is just kind of I mean, it's a resolution, and if we don't do it, it's going to come out of our pocket. So make a motion to waive the readings, please.
We have a motion by Eric to waive the 3 readings. Is there a second?
A second.
We have a second by Sarah. Roll call vote to waive the 3 readings.
Nancy,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Jay.
Yes.
Motion passed. Do I have a motion to adopt resolution 33-2024?
Motion.
Motion by Audrey. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jay. Roll call vote to adopt.
Jay,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Motion passed. Up next for a first reading is resolution 34-2024, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into a service agreement with Wayland Engineering Company Incorporated to provide GPS services for the police department cruisers and declaring an emergency. This, as we discussed in the meeting, is for our GPS that's currently on our cruisers.
Yeah.
Our contract, actually, we don't have a contract because when we installed them, they gave us a free 3-year trial basis. The 3 years are up as of December 31st of this year. So if we wish to continue, we need to enter into a contract with them.
Do we need a motion to suspend?
And the motion to suspend the 3 readings?
This does lock us in, as we discussed, right?
Yeah, this will be for the next 3 years. Yes.
Second.
We have a motion by Ross to suspend the 3 readings, a second by Nancy. Roll call vote to suspend the readings.
Sarah,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Andrea.
Yes.
Motion passed. Do we have a motion to adopt resolution 34-2024?
Motion.
Motion by Audrey. Is there a second?
Yeah.
Second.
Second by Sarah. Roll call vote to adopt.
Ross,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Motion passed. Next item, up for a 3rd reading this evening is ordinance 2024-16, an ordinance accepting the final plat of Foxfire subdivision, Phase 3, Part 2. Any discussion?
I know you didn't bring it up in the engineer's report, but you're already in good with everything the way it is, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have a motion to adopt
So
ordinance
moved.
2024-16? Motion by Ross. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nancy. Roll call vote to adopt the ordinance.
Sarah,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Jay.
Yes.
Motion passed. Up next is resolution 31-2024, a resolution approving the major site plan application for Mario Reyes Rosales for the El Canon Retail Center and Restaurant.
Motion to approve?
I don't think we can approve it without a variance.
Okay, first of all, we have a motion on the floor by Ross. And I guess
Second motion.
we have a second by Jay. Now let's hold a discussion. John, do you want to speak to this? Or Susan?
I can, yes. So there was a bit of a question pertaining to Welch Road and how it's classified, which the functional classification of the road then dictates driveway spacing. So Welch Road, it's classified as a minor arterial. You basically have State Route 762 at the south, which is also a minor arterial. Welch Road, minor arterial, and then the very north end, State Route 665 is a principal arterial, just to give you kind of the bearings. So looking at that classification as per our codification, 35 mile per hour, driveway spacing would be 300 feet. So that would be not only within their property with 2 driveways, but then also you have to look at adjacent properties. So Pettit's, making sure you have that spacing, and then whatever's to the north.
I think this was something that was originally discussed when we first started having these meetings, and it was the administration who we requested 2 driveways, feeling it would, an in and an out would make more sense and be safer than having 1 driveway. 1 driveway, I understand 2 coming out to Welch Road could be a problem, but 1 driveway, if a fire truck is sitting there with a building fire blocking the driveway, cars cannot exit the parking lot. And we are the ones that push for that, thinking that the road was not necessarily a minor arterial because it didn't meet the width requirements, and it also has no easement on it. Minor arterial says it has to be 32 feet wide, and the road is not 32 feet wide. It says that it has to have easements. The road has no easements. And it says the traffic has to be between 800 and 4,000. I'll give you that one. For a local street, which only requires 25 feet apart, the distance, the width of the road didn't even come into play. It's a road with no easements, but it's a road with an average traffic volume of 800. So it comes in, it meets 2 of the 3 requirements in my estimation for a local street, but it only meets 1 of the 3 requirements as a minor arterial road.
But our code says that whatever the engineer's opinion is for the roads is what it is. That her decision is what defines the streets. And if she says it's an arterial.
And with that being said, all he has to do is X out the 1 driveway and he meets code and we're good to go.
Is the fire department okay with only 1
Fire
lane?
department doesn't have to be agreeable to anything according to our code.
Okay.
Correct.
I mean, my concern is the drive, having so many driveways. But I mean, Welch Road in 23 had just north of there was 6,041 cars. It's increasing at 22.8%. So 24 is 7,418. 25 is 9,109 cars a day.
And where did those figures come from?
Just ODOT.
ODOT doesn't do
They sure
traffic
do.
studies on
They
county
had
roads.
Yes,
Yeah.
they sure do. If
Do
you
they?
go on their website, it's just
Yeah.
north of Thompson's is where these numbers came from.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
in 25, if it stays at
Which I
22,
agree, the volume's there.
Yeah, I mean, so
I don't disagree with the volume.
9,100 cars in 25. If it stays at 22.8, I mean, that's a lot of cars.
Okay, and with that being said, then do we want to allow the developer to do this with 1 driveway?
If that change is made, don't they have to go back and have another public hearing? That's
No, no. He takes the map and says, okay, we amend it and here we go. And you vote on it tonight.
I think for traffic wise, I just think that 2 is going to be a problem in the future.
I
Safety wise, I mean, I see his point. Safety, chief, you deal with safety.
Like he described, if you had a shopping center, okay, you get a fire engine in there and you would get a medic in there. As they need more equipment, it does help if we can get some other cars out of there and you get an engine with the width that they are now and you have one driveway like that, I don't know how you're gonna get anything else in there as well. Plus if, God forbid if they got an engine and then they need to try to get an aerial around it, that's a whole other ballgame you're dealing with. So I think the more room that you give for emergency situations, I'm going to tell you the better.
So here we are at the 11th hour. I know you've brought this up before, but I don't think it's been brought up in the way like, we're asking you questions. I just think at this point, it's up to us whether we want to just let them have 1 entrance or for safety reasons.
I agree that the traffic on Welch Road is getting more and more. this is the last driveway that could be on that side of the road.
It is.
I mean, you're not gonna put any more because you've got driveways all the way up. When it comes to the other side of the road, if and when that property, the Taylor Farm, is ever annexed into the village,
No cuts.
that's where you make your decision. Do you make, if that comes in, if a developer would happen to buy that and approach the village, we tell them, okay, we want 50 feet of frontage so that we can widen the road and put in our turn lanes and do all that and clean the mess up then. I mean, that's where I see the future is the next one coming in is where you clean up the whole Welch Road problem. But that's, you know, I don't know. I haven't seen a major problem getting out of Chestnut Estates or Chestnut Commons. We've got one road, and the biggest problem we've got up there is it's 35 miles an hour going south and 55 going north. And the county don't seem to think that's a problem, or they would have lowered the speed limit, like I've asked them numerous times to do.
Yep.
So the county doesn't seem to have a problem with it. I don't know. This is a council decision.
I mean,
Gentlemen, I'd like to ask if we would, for some input from the design side of it.
Yeah, so this has been going on for a while. And we did, in the beginning, discuss this with the village. And that's what we had decided. Cutting it, you know, I'd like to have more out of my house. I wouldn't want more than one entry into the house. Okay? Building codes are all based on 2 ways out. Okay? If we limit it to one, I think it's gonna be a problem for the fire department personally. And not only the fire department, but all the patrons that visit this place. Those things can happen if there's a fire and nobody can get out of this lot. There's gonna be some lawsuits.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Because I don't have it right in front of me. For the 2 driveways, are they gonna be designated one way? We have that in the site plan
We
where
have,
it
right
is
now,
a
we have
one-way.
2
Oh, it's 2-way on that, okay.
I think having probably the south one is maybe a right in, right out could possibly eliminate. I mean, the concern is, as you stated, with the separated speeds, if we have 2 cars simultaneously turning left, you know, we have a lot of young drivers and elderly drivers that maybe their judgment's not quite as sharp. You know, I don't know. I mean, a shared driveway would be the ultimate best thing. Is if some way they could have a shared driveway going into Pettit's.
That doesn't work.
Unless they
That
could
was
move
our
their-
original concept that we looked at.
Unless they
I
could move
think.
their sign.
Yeah, and that's what we had originally talked about. I believe the first time we spoke was having just pull into Pettit's driveway
Right.
on Welch Road and then a little side road up to there. And
Well, now
you've got a
they're on the
pond.
corner lot.
Yeah, you've got a pond there. You've got the sign sitting there and everything else.
And I mean, I have brought to, unfortunately, I apologize to you. It took me that long to find in the code, you know, that backed up my concerns, or I would have brought this to you, you know, before. It took me that long to go through everything to find it. You know, I'm sure this, and unfortunately, I didn't get into it even deeper to see, you know, if there are other things. I mean, I know it says it has to be 18 feet wide, and, you know, I don't know. You had stated the building codes are based on 2. I mean, does our code say he has to have 2? You're saying no, but are we positive?
We don't have building codes.
Okay, then is the building department going to have a problem with only 1?
It's more of a zoning issue than it is a building department issue.
And you're
of
the
course, building
zoning.
Department's, you know, concerned about health, safety, and welfare.
Yeah.
This is not safe, I don't think. By just having one.
Yeah, I don't think having one is safe. And with that property, how much frontage was on there? Well, we have 300 feet.
It's just
Yeah,
under 3.
it's-
Yeah, it's over.
something like-
290 something.
Yeah, it is 300.
300 feet, so he can't put two driveways there 600 feet apart.
Can he meet the 300 from the other two business driveways? Because you said he has to take into consideration the other driveways. Can it even be done?
I'd say no, if you're just north of Pettit, I haven't seen the site plan, so yeah, because Pettit's right there by the pond. There's no way.
So I don't think he can have one driveway then, right? Because he has to be 300 feet from the other two driveways.
He would have to put probably one in as far north as possible, and maybe he probably couldn't. So now you're saying his land's unbuildable.
Well, that's why I brought this up in the beginning.
This is the whole reason for going from one zoning.
Yeah.
to-
So we didn't have to go through, so you didn't have to go through the variance
And
process.
once again, I apologize. It took me this long to find it. I
I thought
mean,
he told you about you said that he told you about the lack of square footage.
no,
That's
that
what he
was
told me.
when we discussed the building. We were only talking about the building. And he said that
Yeah, that was sort of-
yeah, we were talking about the building, was the lack of square footage, of why he couldn't turn the patio, you know, the way that the people had said, and it was that because he had to have so much room in the back, and I mean,
Motion in a second on the floor.
I mean, this has been in front of us since April.
Yep.
And we've had to go through the rezoning. We didn't get past that, then we had to go through the major site plan. And Eric and I discussed at the last meeting that that's about the ordinance. And
We already got a motion in a second.
we're ready to start with drawings.
Yep.
So, and they've got people scheduled out and they're trying to get prices, wanting to get prices together. They want to start building in the early spring.
Yeah, can we just vote for it? Can we just vote for it?
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to adopt. The motion is by Ross and a second by Jay. Do you have any input on this at this point?
Not at this point in time, no. There's a motion in a second, then.
Okay. Roll call vote to adopt.
Ross,
Yes.
Andrea,
No.
Jay,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Aaron.
no.
Okay, motion passed. Moving on to the next item. Resolution 29-2024. A resolution to make temporary appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the Village of Commercial Point, Ohio during fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025. This is our temporary budget. We've done 3 readings, or this is the 3rd reading.
Yep.
Got a motion by Nancy to adopt.
Second.
Have a second by Audrea. Roll call vote to adopt.
Eric,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Motion passed. Next item up is pending administrative action. Resolution 35-2024, a resolution to transfer monies within the sewer fund from the sewer plant expansion principal account 5201-850-710-1005 and transfer said monies to the sewer plant expansion interest account 5201-850-720-1005. Do I have a motion to adopt resolution 35-2024?
So moved.
Motion by Ross. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jay. Roll call vote to adopt.
Jay,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Andrea.
Yes.
Motion passed. Additional business.
Are we going back to these guys speaking first?
Yeah, Joe's here to speak.
Can we do that before additional business or?
Which way you want to do it?
Does council have any other additional
The
business?
only thing that I just wanted to follow up and see if on the cow meeting, if we could talk some more about the guardrail issue. That needs to be followed through.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, we will get that on the cow agenda as well. Okay, is there any other additional business excluding Addison Farms. Okay, at this time then, let's go ahead and we're going to discuss the business item that we skipped over there a little earlier, the Addison Farms agreement. All of council was presented an agreement, a development agreement. Hopefully you've had time to look through it, read through it, discuss it, or figure it out. I won't say discuss it. This is what Bill gave to us at the last committee of the whole meeting. So having said that, I'll turn the floor over.
Oh, thank you. I'm texting because I'm texting my co-counsel Glenn Duggar, who's still in rep, but I'm Joe Miller from the Voorhees Law Firm. I appreciate everyone's time this evening. Hopefully Glenn can come because we can make sure we answer each of your questions then. But you'll recall, obviously, our plan was considered by council, was put on the table. We made some changes to it that we thought but squarely addressed council's concerns as it related to some of the lot sizes and the products that were being offered. And so we're here on a revised plan that we thought listened to you and took your feedback seriously. And then we came to you consistent with the annexation agreement in which this village agreed to provide a TIF and arrangements for financing of certain infrastructure. We came to you with a proposal. We yet again listened to your feedback and understood council's, at least the sentiment of certain council members, that you were not willing or not interested in transgressing a policy of not using TIFs to pay for on-site infrastructure. We listened. This development agreement is consistent with that. We have included a new community authority, an NCO, which will help with all of the infrastructure, but it respects that stated interest in maintaining that policy of the village. And so I'm happy to answer any questions or relay any of the specifics. I understand you've had a chance to review the agreement. You had some discussion of it at the last COW, as I understand it, but I'm happy to take your feedback. I think ultimately, if you're wondering, okay, Miller, what is the developer looking for tonight? I'm looking for feedback on the development agreement, looking to get to a final development agreement, and I would suggest if there are changes or issues with which we still need to deal with, you provide direction to the village solicitor and the mayor to work with us to finalize that agreement. Assuming we can do so, and I hope so, then we would be looking to finalize the development agreement and align the timing of approval of that agreement and the zoning to run parallel so that they could be approved consistent with one another. So that's what I'm here on behalf of my client looking for tonight. And I guess I would just ask for any feedback or direction that council can provide so we can accomplish what I hope is a common goal to do just that.
Mayor, I do have a question. In the past, have we gone this far without voting on the rezoning?
No.
So why are we making concessions? That's my question. We've never run them perpendicular to each other or before we've even done the rezoning. So I guess my question is why are we doing that now?
I wouldn't say we've never done that before. I believe Ross could speak better
Yeah,
to
I'm
that.
I'm trying to remember.
K-Nova, I think.
K-Nova was the closest thing.
But that was before, since you've been in, I don't think we've done that.
I think we always say, don't put the cart before the horse.
Exactly.
Well, we've done that, not necessarily with development agreements. We've done, because the development
Right.
agreement, we have ran those parallel with rezoning.
Right.
Because the development agreement, a lot of times will have, is the final decision. If you can't reach an agreement on the development agreement, in the past, we've had where a developer would possibly say, I can't do the deal without it. I don't need it rezoned. I'm out of here.
That's exactly right. If I could weigh in on that issue, Councilmember, I mean, from our perspective, from our side of this podium, we've made significant concessions in terms of changing the product and what we're willing to build. But it really is dependent upon the development agreement, because otherwise the arrangement just won't pencil. It can't be built economically. We need to know what we have from an economic perspective to ensure that we can bring you what we think is a very high quality development. Unfortunately, or fortunately, because you know what you're getting that way, they kind of have to be brought together in lockstep, which it sounds as though is what's been typical, and certainly typical in every other jurisdiction, which I practice in Central Ohio.
Yeah,
How do you
we,
know it's
we,
not?
ty- we typically do not do the rezoning and the, what do we want to say here? The what? Annexation and the rezoning at the same time. We generally, hey, you annex it, then we come follow up after that with the rezoning.
Yeah.
This, we're kind of sitting here with the rezoning and development agreement. Those two are kind of locked together because one is contingent upon the other.
So you say this is a high quality development. Do you have a builder?
We develop the blank lots and we'll provide those lots to builders.
So you don't even know who the builder would be.
Well, no, because we don't have zoning, we don't have a developer agreement.
Well, I mean, that's important because we had a situation here in town a few years ago. Where it just, we had a builder come in and it was just pure chaos for years. So, I mean.
I can't speak to that situation.
And,
I can speak to the
Before,
successful
we've
development.
never had we've always with the TIFs helped with off-site, but not on-site.
And we're not asking for that in this agreement. We've heard you, we've listened, we've made concessions. And I can't speak to the prior situations, but I can say, if you're gonna enter into pre-annexation agreements where you commit to zoning, where you commit to TIFs, and then say to developers, okay, we'll give you your zoning, but we're not gonna tell you what kind of TIF you're gonna get or what kind of developers agreement you're gonna get. The village is saying it's closed for business. Developers won't work that way. They just,
I think the village in the pre-annexation agreement agreed to negotiate a TIF. I don't believe we agreed to do a TIF. Am I mistaken with that?
No, you're right.
I view it differently, but we agree to disagree on that point.
So even as far as negotiating a TIF, and that's fine. And I see what you've done with this agreement, if I understand this correctly, to get around, okay, we're not going to use TIF and you're not using TIF for on-site stuff. You're using TIF for off-site and then you're using NCA monies for on-site?
On-site, yes, as well as any other community improvement projects.
And the NCA is basically going to be putting out bonds to raise money, and you're using the TIF money to guarantee the bonds?
Bill, I have a question. They are so far from what the public hearing was held on now. Do we owe it to the constituents to take this back to a public hearing? Because what they spoke on, the new drawings aren't even close. I mean, are we in a whole, and then, I mean, I'm just asking that before I ask a question about the agreement. Do they need to go back through a public hearing because it has changed so grossly from the original 4 times? Is that something we owe to the constituents, or legally do we have to do that?
It's up for a third reading if and when it's pulled off the table. They redid their drawings to address council's concerns. They brought it down within the zoning limits, it's my understanding, and took away the townhomes, is my understanding.
Right.
And that is what is to be voted on, should it come off the table.
So we don't have to do,
You
even
don't
though
have
it's
to do a
changed
whole
so.
new 3 readings, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
On page 4G. I feel like, as you're finding that, I feel like that is trying to hog tie the village into, if we agree with this, we don't really have the ability to vote no as individual council members. I need to remind you that 3 of the council members haven't promised you anything because we weren't here.
Mhm.
And number 2, how can you in good faith ask us to sign away our right to eminent domain ever in the future, as it states in G? If 25 years down the road, you've got the only well field that we can get water on, you're telling us, sorry, you signed an agreement, you can't do that.
The company would not own the property at issue by then. We would proceed according to our approved development plan. We're not asking you to give away those rights forever, but only as it relates to the company's property as the project's being developed. So the as-built,
We will not exercise our power of eminent domain or commerce proceedings to condemn or otherwise take the company's property without the company's written consent. Why should you have any say? I mean, that's crazy. Eminent domain's used daily in bigger communities. Here, we're not having to, but you're asking for the way I interpret it, is a forever statement.
That's not how it's intended. And this would be a perfect example of what we would love to sit down with the village solicitor and whoever else you think appropriate to work through these final remaining issues. That's not the intent here. We're asking for the good faith cooperation of the village. And in this respect, we're simply trying to say, you agree not to exercise eminent domain so that we can build in accordance with the approved development plans and build out the infrastructure as intended, costed out by us and planned, rather than some right turn at the 11th hour. It's not meant to bargain away your rights forever. And again, if there's wordsmithing that needs to be done to make that clear, we can absolutely do that with whoever council designates to finalize this. So that's a fair question, but not at all the intent.
I think wordsmithing, and there's quite a few things on there that we would want to look at when we get to that point. But I think my concern is, I think the council needs to figure out before we start pulling apart the individual little wording things. I think a good place to start is with Exhibit B on this whole contract. And it's just basically the village, whether it be through TIFs or through NCAs, we're paying for all streets, water, sewer lines, demolition, acquisition of real estate, stormwater, flood remediation, inspection, government fees, and professional services. Does that, I mean, isn't that what a developer does? It sounds to me like the village, if we want to do that, why wouldn't we just buy the land and build it? It seems like we're building the project.
Well, these are on-site improvements that are perfectly appropriate for reimbursement and are done in other jurisdictions. If there's specific items with which you take issue, a lot of developers look to these kinds of tools for help in the build out and development of infrastructure, which is incredibly costly.
Is this
So-
TIF money you're asking for?
These-
the NCA.
These would be paid with NCA
This is the
money,
NCA,
which
okay.
at the same time, like I said, take exception to. I pretty much take exception to all of that. I guess I don't understand why the village would build out your development. I mean, the way I interpret this is the developer is incurring no cost whatsoever. You're being refunded for everything.
Yeah.
What are you paying for at the end of the day that you're not being reimbursed?
I don't see it that way. These are incredibly costly things.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah.
But the developer right beside you, Scioto Crossing, they built the roadways, water line, they built all this. And after they built it, they sold the houses and made their profit. And they said, yeah, we'll do a TIF and we'll give the village 100%, keep it, have a nice day, goodbye. They didn't ask for a nickel back. And you're asking for an NCA to increase 5 mils of revenue on our taxes on the people. And I see this as the village building your development for you. You're paying for your development. At the end of the day, what advantage is this? My question is, what advantage is this to the village?
To the village.
Yes.
The village gets not only the infrastructure that is built on site, but also its continued maintenance and improvements, as well as the off-site infrastructure that the village needs. It gets. used
What
for
does the
sewer
village need? We don't need any of that if the development's not built.
Look, if you're closed for business down here and you don't want development, I guess that's your prerogative and your choice. I would suggest that you bound yourself to that through this pre-annexation agreement. I understand from Mr. Madison, from you, Mayor, we view that differently. I don't see this as the village funding everything necessary for development. I do see it as using a tool, an NCA, that helps defray otherwise very substantial costs. It does not allow this developer to just come in and build a development for free. That is not.
What is, at the end of the day, what is the developer paying for?
The developer is paying for all of these improvements.
But he's being reimbursed.
Over time.
So in 30 years, what will the developer have paid for?
The developer will have paid for everything and been paid back partially through an NCA.
How much TIF are you asking for?
The amount of the TIF itself,
$3.
I have to refer to.
Or the percentage of the TIF?
The percentage of the TIF. The TIF is going to be itemized on off-site.
You're asking for 50%, 75%, 100%. What percentage are you asking for? Of the TIF?
For it all to go to that.
100%,
You're
so
asking for
they're paid
100%.
back.
Yes.
At 7%, 7.5%.
Is that what's in here?
I
Yeah,
believe
it was 7%.
I mean, I'll be honest, we got a developer that's been with us for a lot more money and a lot more time that would give their right arm for 7.5%. I think they're 1.9%,
No,
quite honestly.
they're 2
Okay.
eight.
I mean, and I know times are different. Don't get me wrong.
Well, I wouldn't
Yeah, I
even
mean-
say that, Councilmember. I'm not ascribing blame to anyone, but we're in this unique position where we've been told, give us a proposal. We did. We got some feedback on it, and then we were told, give us a development agreement. That's what these 13 or 14 pages are. We're much more accustomed to negotiating these things around a table where there's give and take, rather than coming down every 2 or 4 weeks and hearing, no, this isn't right, try again. I would love for this council to have designees that would give us feedback, and we could work through these things in an efficient way where drafts could be turned, rather than say, this isn't right, come back in 4 weeks and try again. Can we do that? I mean, that's what other jurisdictions do.
I-
This is very unusual.
I think, well, I guess where we're coming from is, first of all, Grove City does not even entertain TIFs for residentials. They don't do it.
This was discussed the last time I was down here, and if that's where you're coming out on this, then we have a fundamental disagreement. But
And-
no one will just tell us the position of.
Can I ask what the
I
fundamental
I
disagreement is?
think I've been very clear from the start of this, that this council had no desire to fund any on-site improvements with TIFs. And I grant it, you didn't do it with TIFs. You created an NCA that the TIFs want to oversee and make sure it gets paid. I mean, it's shuffling money. We all see it. I
Well,
get
I'm
it.
not trying to slip in and.
Well, no,
We took
I
your
get it.
Feedback, and we're trying to be respectful of what I think Councilman Geiger said she wished was the policy of the village. So, okay, we're gonna respect that. We proposed a new and different tool that doesn't transgress that stated policy, trying to work with you, but I can't keep coming back every 4 weeks and told, now you're trying to slip this back. I'm trying to have a negotiation that's efficient and gets to a good development for this village. This is very, if it's frustrating for you, it's frustrating for us as well, because we've never had a village that tried to do this in a public meeting. Do you see what I'm saying here? Would it make sense to have people sit down and talk this through so we can streamline the process?
Which we are. That's what we're doing now, isn't it?
Not really, because this isn't a negotiation. It's come back every 4 weeks, hear what we don't like, and go try again.
Unfortunately, what brings you to us is that we're a small growing community,
Okay.
and we're not to that point yet. We don't have the means to do that. So unfortunately, this is,
You have a village solicitor, you have a village administrator.
you're asking for people to meet. We don't have those committees. We don't have those things in place currently. So I apologize that we don't have those to meet your liking, but
No, I don't need an apology, but I do need kind of clear direction. Are you telling me, I mean, I'm hearing no TIF for on-site improvements. I'm hearing potentially no TIF at all.
Are you just asking for red lines to be flipped back like every week and like
Wonderful.
back and forth?
Yes.
I don't think we ought to be doing a TIF at all.
I'm having trouble getting even consensus here. That's what the
Yeah.
frustrating
Well,
part sounds
I
like.
guess my frustration, to be honest with you, and this probably isn't on you, is that I don't think that we should spend our valuable time negotiating something like this that's not already annexed. That's my and that's not on you.
Well,
And you're going to go back to the pre-annexation agreement.
yes, it
I
is
was
on you.
I wasn't
Not
part
you,
of
the
that.
village. I mean.
Right. So 3 of us weren't part of that. So
But that doesn't matter.
I get okay, but so
It's a village agreed to it.
that's where my frustration is that it may not even get annexed. So we may have hours and hours of meetings and not come to an agreement and not, I'll be honest with you, I would love to take it off the table and send it to a vote. And then we'll meet with you to deal with it.
This is already annexed, Eric.
Right, I mean, I'm sorry, it might not be
Rezoned.
right. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I used the wrong word. Yeah,
And that's what I
apologize.
was saying.
Might not be rezoned. I mean, I guess that's my frustration is, first of all, I mean, this got given to Mr. Mattis at 3:45 the day of a CAL meeting. So we really didn't have much time to have him go over it to help us. So we had to do it on our own. We're not planning and zoning people. We're having to wear multiple hats because of where we're at. And I just, I feel like that you're asking for everything without putting out anything. And if that's not how you mean it, then please explain to me what you do mean.
That's not how we mean it, and this isn't a typical process. And I do believe that the city, I respectfully disagree with the village solicitor and the mayor, that the city did make certain commitments in its pre-annexation agreement with the developer. We're trying to live those out and figure out, respectfully, Councilmember Weaver, Councilmember Geiger, I feel like this developer has made significant concessions in terms of the design, the product, the density to conform to zoning. Maybe we're willing to make even further concessions as a part of this development agreement, but I can't get the village to work with us in an efficient, streamlined way that helps us get to a solution.
You can't
Versus
tell
every
us
4
who's,
weeks telling them,
you can't even tell us who's building the houses. I mean, how can you say that they're gonna be quality houses?
I don't
I
even
mean, I
have,
don't know that they are.
I don't have zoning or lots to sell yet until we get approved. I think this developer has a proven track record within Ohio. What are your concerns in that regard? I don't have zoning and I don't have a developer's agreement, so I can't tell you these builders are ready to buy these lots.
Well, you could off on what you gave us, based on what you gave us.
Okay.
Do you have a builder in mind for each different?
I wish
Possible.
Mr. Duggar was here. He might be.
Yeah, I mean, because Glenn, I'm not no offense to you, but Glenn seems to be more, in pocket with this because I think he's been with it longer. So it's unfortunate he's not here.
Conflict of language does happen, unfortunately. I mean, we've talked about a price point before that's significant, obviously, that's going to involve builders of a certain caliber and quality. And we're going to need that in this development. So I can't give you specific builders' names tonight when I don't even have zoning and I don't have consensus, it feels like, on this developer's agreement, which is necessary for it to go forward, which I contend the village has committed to working with us on. I don't feel like this satisfies those obligations. So is there consensus among council about how we can negotiate this efficiently?
The problem we have is if whether it be Bill, the village administrator, or myself, if we sit down and negotiate, everything we say is subject to council approval. And I can negotiate to give you everything on Exhibit B, and I can bring it to council, we can reach an agreement, and I come to council and they just blow the whole thing up.
The only way that you're able to discuss it with all of council is at a meeting like this. So that's kind of why we had you come in and be able to take all the questions now.
I certainly understand that's the
kinda-
only way I can speak with you all, or the only way in which you can gather and answer these questions.
I guess, let me ask the council then. Do you have any desire, if Bill would be negotiating this, and I guess maybe this is where we need to ask a question. Do you have a problem, or are you in favor of using TIF and NCA money, whichever one it is, to pay for the streets in the development?
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
Do you,
Well, you just asked, do you have a problem? And they said, no, absolutely not. Make sure I'm hearing this right.
Okay, no, we
No,
don't want that. We don't want to do
I
that.
understood it as, are we okay with those monies being used for that? Is that how you meant it?
that's how I meant it.
Yes.
Whether it be with this would be NCA money being used to pay the developer back for the roadways.
And here's how I look at
Well, I'm
that.
just counting heads because I don't even know if there was consensus on that.
No. Ross?
No, I take,
Well, you all aren't voting, there's no,
I'm trying to put this together. The more I listen, and I really didn't think about this way, we've never negotiated with anyone other than a builder. And what it sounds, I'm beginning to, this sounds more like you're a broker. So,
No, they're a developer. They develop lots, but this is a very big development with hundreds of lots. So no one builder could kind of take all that down.
Well, we negotiated with MI for 400 and some lots, so
Fair, that's MI.
we have, and we know, but the Scioto Crossing and
We're not a
Lord,
national public.
so that's who we're used to
that's
doing
been our
business with.
history. That's our history with those things. So now it's kind of, I feel like we're dealing with the middleman who is trying to, it'll be a better example.
Sure.
You ever hear of flipping homes? This sounds like a land flip.
To me, it's kind of what's done in every community. And
It hasn't happened here
I
yet.
understand it hasn't happened here
Yeah.
yet. So there are developers, very reputable developers, who come in, get land entitled,
Okay.
build infrastructure, and develop what are called blank lots. All the infrastructure, utilities, and everything are there for these national reputable builders to take those lots down and build the homes. And that's what's being proposed here.
And that's what, okay.
Would your company be building the actual streets?
Yes.
You would be installing
This is
the,
not a land flip. This is not.
I mean, that's just the best term I come up with.
Sure, but
All of a
but
sudden,
it's
we're gonna
not,
make some
okay, we're gonna get
improvements
this
here and-
agreement done. We're going to get zoned and we're gonna flip it to someone else. We're gonna be here. We're gonna build it out.
you
We're
would be
gonna sell it
building
out.
the streets, the infrastructure and all those items.
Yes.
Not just general contracting. You're gonna,
Well, they
Well, yeah.
would contract.
I just
But
can't,
yes.
I can't get past that. I mean, I wish people would hand me something that I could front the money, get 100% of it back and take the profit. I guess that's what I'm stuck on. And granted, I'm just at my 1 year mark, so maybe this is a norm,
I think.
but I think
it's
that's
an
what I'm
enormous-
stuck on.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to speak over you.
No, you're fine.
I think it's an enormous amount of money. And these tools do provide certainties, not just to developers, but to communities and local jurisdictions themselves, that they will get infrastructure of the caliber and quality that they need and want, and they will have developments that are of a certain standard. That's what these things provide, both TIFs and NCAs, and continued into the future. It provides for the continued maintenance and upkeep into the future.
Hold on. The continued maintenance, once, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, once their bond's up, all that's on us. They don't have anything else, right? Once their warranty bond or whatever it's called, then all the upkeep's on us. You said continued upkeep.
Well, I meant in terms of amenities for the community. I apologize. Public
Oh, okay.
infrastructure will be dedicated to the village.
Okay, I was,
With that in front.
Yeah, I guess, like I said, my whole thing has been, I think a lot of the council's having a hard time of getting over the point that we've never done a residential development where we've TIFed all of the streets, water lines, TIFed or NCA'd or whichever way you want to go with it. We've never done a development where we've paid the developer fronts the money and we pay him back 100% of everything.
Well, I don't know that it would be 100% of
Well,
everything, but this is
95,
certainly what we're
90,
proposing.
whatever, we're at, the majority of
he
it.
needs help, Glenn.
Well, and also, we've discussed, we need to have our own NCA and have communities join that because, I mean, you can make a contract with an NCA that says a certain percentage goes to the village because, we're taking the risk here and eventually we're going to have to maintain those roads. So,
Well, I
That's
remember
my
your
thought.
point about you wanted to make sure that an NCA could grow beyond any one particular community. And that's in no way hamstrung by this proposed, that can still
yeah,
take place and continue to be built out.
yeah.
I apologize for getting late.
Not a problem.
Unfortunately.
Can't be
City
too-
Council
We've been
won't
beating up on him, so go
won't
ahead.
Meet on Monday night, so,
So we've been struggling on my side of the podium with the process that we're not able to negotiate this in some form or fashion more efficiently, turn red lines to get to a draft that could be considered concurrently with the zone.
which is the way that's usually done.
Certain members of council, but I can't gauge the number, are reluctant to agree to any financing tool for any on-site improvements. And so I'm merely seeking a consensus. I've explained the difficulty on our part coming down here every 4 weeks being told no, try again. And while you may not have had, a TIF with anything but a builder like MI, this is a reputable developer of blank lots who is in it for the long haul, will build infrastructure to your standards. And tools like this are what are needed to make deals of this size, developments of this size work. Correct.
All right, so have we covered whether the offsite issue is includable with that TIF or not? Is that?
The offsite cannot be, the offsite is the only thing that can be used
I understand that.
for the tip.
Then within I think what we were talking about then is, so we have sources and uses of money, right? So the source for the off-site improvements would be the TIF, right? And I think that we've always understood that that was an acceptable TIF expenditure.
For offsite?
offsite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Councilman Weaver. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
So we've got that.
notion was floated that this is a residential development to begin with, and so I just want to make sure we're all
Okay.
comfortable with that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Then what has been told to us was there was significant concern about the on-site components. And what we talked about, as I recall in this thing, and again, we apologize, the gentleman that drafted this is currently in a plane someplace, was that we were gonna set up the NCA. The NCA was gonna pick up that bucket of improvements, which means that it's paid for by the people who actually live in this community. So whatever the tax millage is, there'll be an additional tax charge of so many millage that these people, the area, the subject of the NCA would pay, and no one else would pay. And the genesis of that whole concept was Mr. Wexner's effort in New Albany, that he had bought 2,000 acres and he wanted to build a world-class community, but that was made pretty clear to him that it wasn't fair to the people who already lived there, that they had to have a significant increase tax bill, which makes a lot of sense. And so what we were trying to do was somewhat similar to the same thing, in that this subdivision and only this subdivision would pay for those improvements that occurred within the confines of that board through the NCA. So I know that the NCA is new. I kind of batted it about, I think, some when we talked about it, as Joe indicated, these NCAs can be expandable. They can be include some of the village, all the village. I mean, at least in this proposal, it was very specific that it would pay for a lot of those improvements that would occur within this project. And that's what we were trying to get done.
So at least the mayor has expressed reluctance or a question as why the developer should be paid in full, albeit over time.
Yeah.
And make money selling lots.
But the TIF
Yeah,
is still backing the bonds, correct? So the TIF money is.
No. Now we're talking about the NCA. So the TIF is the bucket over here for offsite.
Okay.
I apologize. Now we're talking about onsite.
Using NCA money for the onsite so it doesn't affect anybody else in the village. What, as opposed to getting your money from the NCA, why would you not go ahead and absorb this cost and get your money when you sold the house by upping the price of the house?
There's a market rate for what the lot will sell for. And so what we're really doing is using the NCA to finance that over a period of time.
Because otherwise you don't want to build it all into the price of the lot, price the market out of Commercial Point and end up with a failed development. This at least ensures you a development of a certain quality with grade A infrastructure from day one that will sell and will build out.
So who's familiar with the villages in Florida? Anybody? The
The
villages in Florida?
villages in town.
It's the largest retirement community in the country. And the way they do it is it's identical to what we're talking about here, is that even more aggressively though, they put in the infrastructure and they then issue a bond, and over a 30-year period, or whatever the period is, the residents who have bought within that subdivision district then pay the cost to retire that bond. That's the way it actually makes a lot of sense, quite frankly. When you buy a house, you don't pay cash. You get a mortgage, you pay it over 30 years. Many people do. Some people are fortunate you pay cash. But generally, people finance the cost of a home. All we're doing really here is we're financing the cost of some of that infrastructure. That's all.
So what happens with the NCA? I don't know if you can't guess how many years it'll take to pay you back for everything.
Yeah.
So once you're paid back, then what happens with the NCA money? I know it can be used for only in there, but then the village is kind of left out of it at that point. I mean,
So the NCA has, as long as there's debt outstanding, typically there would be a so I recall, and I'm not the NCA expert, but I'm doing this the best I can, would have a one-person majority on the board, okay? Once that's paid off, there are lots of NCAs around. I'm on a board, one up in Sunbury, I'm on a board in Hilliard that are of NCAs. I'm the developer appointee. And once that developer is paid back, then it becomes the villages and or the residents of that area's entity. It's really a quasi-tax, it's a quasi-governmental agency.
What are the
By
limits?
statute.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm
What are
sorry.
the time limits, Glenn? What are the time limits on?
And NCA can be indefinite, can go on forever. and
Oh,
ever.
okay.
It
And,
can go on forever and ever. It could be 2 years long.
okay.
But typically what you're trying to do is the NCA obviously has to be around long enough
Yep.
to retire whatever debt that it is accepted by that revenue stream. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So,
So you're artificially keeping the prices of the houses lower by charging the people a higher property tax.
exactly. But here's the
No,
great.
it's an unfair way to put it.
Well,
Yeah.
well, isn't that what happens?
Yeah, I mean, well, think about it this way too, Mayor. Most people, their property tax,
I mean, you're shaking your head, but this is very common.
Well, no, but, you know, I'm still stuck on a point that you keep saying you're coming back every 4 weeks, but you guys are bringing back different things each time you come back.
we can
And-
hope,
But the thing is, I mean, you just got finished saying a different lawyer drafted this up, and you probably would have done this if this was you.
No, he was at
There was
my
stuff in-
law
there
firm.
was
It was
stuff
very
in
much a
there.
collaborative product here.
But it was not right. But I'm saying, you're saying that you're bringing the stuff back because we're not helping, but that's not actually the facts.
What are the
I
facts?
mean, the facts are, the last couple, since I've been here, you brought 3 or 4 different drawings back in different pieces that weren't in there originally. You added stuff, you took stuff out.
Those are a lot of the concessions I was describing earlier, the Councilwoman Geiger. We keep making concessions.
But the
listening
first
to
thing you got,
make your
when you got
changes.
zones, or you got the first thing done, you changed it. You added stuff to it, and we had more rooftops, and then we took
No,
rooftops
that's not
out.
correct.
Took out.
that's not correct.
It took
Sorry,
out.
sir.
The plan
That's
as it
not
stands right now conforms to every.
Glenn, I think he was
zoning
talking from the pre-annexation agreement
Uh-huh.
to the first one we got as a council. It was grossly different because you were over the number and you had to change some. Yeah, you went from 6 units. So he's talking about way back from the
Okay,
pre-annexation.
That's-
I've lost track of.
But
Yeah, I knew you didn't understand.
Let's keep it, apples to apples, but I mean, you're telling us it's our fault. Well, I don't see it that way.
I'm just looking for a more streamlined process. I'm not trying to ascribe fault.
I've never had this negotiation with city council. I'm doing this for 40 years. So this is the way you want to do it. That's fine. We're trying to do that as best we can.
If we're looking for a process, would it make sense, I'm just asking council, would it make sense for us to let the mayor and let Bill negotiate the development agreement, redline it, get
Yes.
it back to them? They can provide comments and then we can discuss those comments at the council. We can go through and say, yeah, we are okay with this. We're not okay with it.
That's exactly what I'm here tonight. with.
Right, and I know how attorneys like to work. So the back
Yeah.
and forth is a better discussion.
And that's fine, but I guess I'll take the time to sit with them and meet. But I can tell you now, take that off and I'm good with it. I'm good.
So what that is.
Take off the exhibit on-site improvements and I'm probably good with most of everything else.
This is like a tennis match.
Your turn.
So we ask you a volley. I can't tell you that that's acceptable to our client. But
Okay.
that, tennis match a lot of times have more than one volley.
Right, but
So
if we take those out, we send it back, they can comment and say, we'd like to keep this in because of,
that's why.
and we're willing to
Yeah.
take this out.
Yeah.
And so we might get some of what we want, they might get some of what they want.
But we could come to a point that you just
Yeah,
pull it.
Yeah, or it doesn't work. Yeah.
I think it would be better off to have a member of council on that negotiating team.
I volunteer.
Well, I think
She
you and I have to
volunteers.
redline it with a member of council. and
Yeah.
We'll send it back.
Sarah volunteered.
Bill, I didn't catch that. Sorry.
That was attorney-client privilege.
Oh.
I said, we'll redline it and get it back to you.
Good. One other question I had before we get.
Sure.
Um, how much engineering work has taken place at this point? Any?
Very preliminary.
Yeah, okay.
preliminary, but even
I mean,
preliminary engineering might be a $50,000.
Well, I mean, I'm just concerned because I'm familiar with the topography, the
Yeah.
soil types, and I know some of the things you're going to be,
Yeah, we've done enough engineering to know that we can build the plan we presented to you.
okay.
And so what does that mean? Probably 15 or 20% maybe?
Yeah,
Something like
Mac.
that.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
don't-
you.
Don't hold me to that, Rob. That's a general, at this point in the process, to get to that plan.
Yeah.
They've had to do an alto, they've had to do a topo, they've
Right.
had to do some preliminary, they've
Yeah.
had to add enough interaction with John to know that what kind of offsite costs we have.
Yep.
Because we do have an offsite cost number in there for the extension of sewer and water, so we've done enough of that to know. But those are probably rule of thumb numbers, so.
Yep.
10,
Gotcha.
15, 20%, something like that.
Those numbers seemed awful low for what's going to need to be done for Durant Road and McCord Road. I mean, was it 3.9 million without looking or something like that for offsite? Yeah, I mean, the to be determined, I,
Chris Mullins have to get the engineer involved, county engineer.
we're spending 700,000 for a little short street.
We don't have a number on the Ford Road.
Do you not plan on doing anything?
No, it's just
No,
not
it
there.
says
To be
TBD.
determined.
So
It's not there yet.
I don't know what.
But that's more money you're going to want TIF money for at 7% or 6 point something percent,
Well, there's all.
And 100% of it. right?
I'm sorry?
And want 100% of it.
It's all part of the negotiation.
Yeah, Bill, I have a question. Is it up to us to pull this off the table and just put it to a vote?
No.
Actually, the village can pull it off the table. A council can pull anything they've tabled off the table. I mean, I'm not saying that you want to,
Well,
but
I
the
guess,
council tables something, the council has the right to take anything off the table and vote on it.
and that's why I was confused
I
because
believe
Glenn
Glenn-
asked for it to be tabled, so
Glenn
I
asked
didn't
for it to
know.
be tabled.
Yeah.
And the council then approved to table it by
Yeah.
a vote.
I guess,
And the council can take it off the table by a
Yeah, we had
vote.
to correct an error.
yeah,
Yeah,
I get
well, that, and we also typically, there's a provision in, I don't know whether it exists, Bill, I'll defer to you on this, but a lot of times it says the council has to act within a certain period.
right. And
Yeah.
If I table it, then we can go through a more deliberative process.
Yeah.
so,
If you request to have it tabled.
Yeah.
You
Right.
requested and then the council voted to table it.
Yes.
Which is what I'm saying
Correct.
is I feel the council can take it off the table
Glenn,
anytime they
the
want.
reason I asked that
Right.
is before you got here,
Right.
as a council, it was discussed that some of us feel like we're putting the cart before the horse and we're spending a lot of time and a lot of effort in something that could be for nothing.
Uh-huh.
So if we would put it to a vote and if it's approved,
Yeah.
then it put all the time you want into it. But if we put it to a vote and it's not approved,
Right.
then we're wasting a lot of your time, our time, the developer's time.
Here's the way these things work, is that our clients has a contract with the purchase of the underlying property owner.
Okay.
And there are benchmarks in there. And typically, the zoning of the property is a benchmark.
Yeah.
Such that that's going to require significant performance on my client's part. I haven't seen the purchase contract here. A lot of times, the economic development agreement is kind of something that's down the road. It was covered by the annexation agreement. So a lot of times, there's not a provision in the purchase and sale agreement that matches up with that development agreement. So benchmark would be the zoning. And so for us to be able to say, we really don't want to be in a situation where, I think we've repeatedly said this, because you're okay with the zoning, but you're not so okay with the economic development agreement. And so we're trying to get both of those to fit. You know what I mean? You can go less units, do something different on development agreement. You can do more units and do something different on development agreement. You know what I mean? Because that's an economic thing. So
And I
we
feel like both sides need to know what they have here for both the economics and the zoning. So you may call it the cart before the horse, but the two don't work unless they're together.
Most of both.
I agree, but with your economic plan, there, and feel free to correct me from your side if I'm in, there is no benefit to the village. You're getting 100% of the TIF. The NCA doesn't really, because once you're paid back, it can go away. So there's no financial benefit. Other TIFs that we've had, there's been a percentage that the village can use as they feel needed. What benefit is there to any of this package?
Sure, there's a whole bunch of them. One is, and as I understand it, again, I wasn't involved, Mayor, you correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the, if you go back in time, one of the reasons that this got some traction, as I understood it, again, secondhand, is that here was, whatever the number is, 400 and some taps. And at that time, you were in the process of building the new sewer water plant.
Right.
And gosh, wouldn't it be good to have those taps coming out? Because now we've got users for it. And so as it's relayed to me, one of the reasons, and this comes from Jim, year and a half ago, was to do this was because we were going to get fairly significant sewer and tap fees from the houses that got built, which you get. The second thing is the TIF, relatively small amount, $2.5, $3.5, whatever $1 million. After the TIF is paid back in that time period, then yeah, the village would get the balance of that money.
Yeah.
So if it's paid back, pick a number, 12 years, the village would get the next 18. Okay. Again, you got to spend money on public improvements that has to be a benefit to that area. That can be pretty broadly defined. In the bond context, if that's where we end up, that money is going to be kind of dedicated to the retirement of those, of the repayment through the TIF, payment of the bond, in order for those to be. Does that make any sense?
Well,
And then the other piece of it, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The NCA can go on forever. So we can have it defined, say the NCA is going to last, pick a number, 23 years, 32 years. I don't know what the number is. And at that point, it stops. And the NCA then could be, at that point, developers out of it. It becomes, a function of
So
the
Mayor,
residents of Commercial Point.
you could strike all of Exhibit B and say no NCA. Or you could negotiate and not cut off the village's nose to spite its face and say, okay, maybe an NCA, but for a certain duration, and then thereafter, those charges would inure to the benefit of the village. Right.
Alan,
I'm just having a hard time knowing that I've got developers in the wings wanting to build, that are going to build, and they're standing in the wings right now wanting to do TIFs, and they're wanting to give the village 100% of the TIF money. I'm the builder. It's my responsibility to come up with the money, do this, and move on. That's every housing development we've built. The developer has built it. He's turned the land over to the village, and we haven't had to pay for streets, roads, demolition, acquisition of property, anything on that list.
And you go under this agreement.
We have never, we've never done that with TIF money, NCA money, or anything, developer money. And the developer puts forth the money, he does it, he makes his money when he sells the house. That is how we've done our business into the
Sir,
village.
You signed this pre-annexation agreement on behalf of the village, did you not? And it talks about a TIF for this very.
It says that we will negotiate a TIF.
All right.
And I'll negotiate a TIF off-site, which is what we've offered to do from day one. So I will negotiate. If I'm negotiating this, there's my red lines. The village has never paid, I won't say never, the village typically doesn't pay for any of that stuff on item B in a residential.
Okay, but any village that's struggling with growth issues, or even sees them coming down the road, like Commercial Point does, should absolutely be talking with developers and negotiating on a TIF and an NCA.
For off-site stuff, we are.
I'm just saying.
We have developers in the wings, and there's.
Sir, I heard you loud. I'm just saying.
And there's
an NCA
off-site.
is a good tool for this community to develop revenue when it's going to struggle with growth in the future.
And the NCA is good, but I'm back to the same thing. We've never had a developer come in here and ask us to build their development for them. And I feel like that's what we're doing.
I have to say, Mr. Mayor, I disagree with the terminology.
Okay.
On the offsite creation of the NCA, you aren't paying anything. So it's a misnomer to say we are paying for. The residents of that subdivision
On the, through the NCA.
through the NCA,
Yes.
not you,
Yes,
not the nickel.
I agree with that.
And neither are you,
Yeah.
because you're getting reimbursed 100%. Am I understanding it correctly, Glenn?
Yeah.
If overtime
Yeah.
it works, you know.
So you're not paying for it either.
Well, I
But
can
that's
tell
what
you,
we're gonna see in your red line.
I
So
can
maybe-
tell you, I can
Yep.
tell you that,
But you're making the profit on the deal.
I can tell you that.
This is the negotiation we're inviting. You don't like how the NCA works under this?
Yeah.
Show us what might work.
I can tell you the $20 million in an NCA, based on some of the spreadsheets we've seen, it's unlikely that we will retire that debt in 30 years.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
So I agree
So-
with whoever said, you beat me up pretty good on this. You have.
Yeah.
But now send us back something that says, okay, for this length of time and for this amount, and maybe not this, but for this, so we can get to something that works well enough for all
Yeah.
of us.
I just want to, Mayor, the only quibble I have with you, and I've known you a while, is that you're paying for it. You're not paying for that.
Well, we are paying for the TIF stuff,
You're paying, yes.
not the NCA.
Does anyone have questions for Joe or Glenn?
No.
We'll get you a red line.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you.
And again, I apologize for being late.
No,
No problem, Bill.
I scheduled the council meetings on Tuesday.
good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you.
All righty. Any other additional business?
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to pull this off the table.
I have a motion on the
Right
floor.
off the table.
Pull the third reading, pull it off the
To
table,
approve what?
to send the third reading to a vote for the.
What you're asking for is to approve the document that was sent to you.
I'm
The
asking
rezoning.
for what the rezoning, for not this,
That's what
for
you're,
what we had when it was tabled. I'm asking for that to be pulled
I
off the
understand
table.
this is a matter of council discussion at this point. But for the record, on behalf of this developer, I would object to that. We ask that it be put on the table. We should be in control of at least action upon property in which we are on a contingent contract to buy. And I've
Your
already
point-
explained why they need to run in parallel course, and we would object to that.
Your point is heard and taken. We do have a motion on the floor. Before we go in, I guess I'll ask, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and second. Discussion.
I think that the idea we had before, I think we at least need to give them the benefit of redlining, seeing what they will give. I mean, there's things, I mean, I'm like with Alan, I'm the mayor, I'm not with whatever exhibit B that was. But I think we just need to do.
But we
our-
owe it to them to
Do our
to
due
make our own
diligence.
proposal to that.
And we told them what we did not.
Yeah.
Take this off, like, we're good. I think that we owe them at least that. But that's just my personal opinion.
I
We could
agree
still
with-
negotiate.
I agree with what Nancy said. As much as I may disagree with going down the road, I would very much ask council not to vote yes on taking this off the table at this time. I think that we should have a little bit further negotiation with them. I think that's only right and fair.
We can still negotiate after, correct?
This deal may not be possible. As he stated, this deal may not work without the development agreement. So
Then they could withdraw it. Am I
you're
not
starting all
correct?
over. You're starting all over.
Well, honestly, Ross, I think we're at that point. So much has changed.
There's a vote on, there's a call for the question.
have a call for the question. That ends the discussion. I'd like a roll call vote. We have a motion on the floor to pull this off the table.
What exactly are you pulling off the table, please? Point of clarification.
We would be pulling, this has been tabled, we'd bring it back to the floor for a vote.
Be pulling off the third reading. of-
Yes.
Yes, we would be doing the third reading.
Okay. Do we have the
We have a motion by Eric and we have a second.
the legislation that you're voting on?
I do.
Let's read the legislation.
Do we want to do a third reading before it's pulled off the table?
Well, I just need the title in the record of what you're actually attempting to do. That's all.
Let me, before I say I do my pile of stuff. I know it's here. There's what was postponed. We postponed it, we tabled it prior to the third reading. Okay, we've got a motion on the floor to remove from the table ordinance number 2024-03 as amended, an ordinance to rezone 110 plus or minus acres within the village of Commercial Point, Ohio, from exceptional use to planned unit district PUD, and adopting the preliminary plan and development standards text for the planned district.
Mhm.
So we have a motion on the floor to remove it from the table, and there's been a second. And when we remove it from the table, we will be doing a third reading and voting on it tonight.
If pulling it off the
If it's
table
pulled off the
passes.
table.
Correct.
Like I said, they requested this, and I would urge council to vote no on pulling it off the table at this time. Roll call vote to pull it off the table.
Jay,
No.
Nancy,
No.
Sarah,
No.
Ross,
No.
Andrea,
No.
Eric.
Yes.
The motion failed. This will remain on the table at this time until further notice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. We will be back in touch with you.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn by Ross. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by
Sarah.
Sarah. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Bye.
Opposed?
I'm not even going.
Motion passed. The meeting is adjourned.
I know.
Bill.